What's up, Night Owl? Staley here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be going over the Chapter 2 location of Karkolohk. The Goblin Fortress of Karkolohk is located at the very southwestern edge of Icewind Dale. This location has so many possibilities. There is a lot going on here at this Goblin Fortress, and there's a cool story behind it. I really like this location. To start with, let's talk about where this fortress actually came from. 5 years ago in Icewind Dale, a gnome by the name of Spellix Romwad was traveling with a small caravan through the mountain pass when a group of goblins triggered an avalanche which came down on the mountain or on the caravan, and then the goblins quickly jumped in and captured all of Spellix's travel companions. But they overlooked Spellix, who was able to hide, and using the parts from the caravan, lots of scrap and metal, and his own ingenuity, he came up with a costume for a goblin costume and disguised himself as a goblin and then infiltrated this goblin tribe. Spellix's intentions were pure. His goal was to get into this goblin tribe so that he could free his travel companions. And he actually earned the nickname Yarbnock, which means ever gnawing in goblin. And he got this nickname because the goblins offered him a bone, which he began to chew on, and his jaw malfunctioned, causing him to continuously chew on the bone, which led to him being named the Ever Gnawing. Within the next several months, the previous leader of the goblins choked on the tongue of a mountain goat, which allowed Spellix, now being known as Yarbnock, to ascend to the rank of leader of the entire goblin tribe. The book doesn't really elaborate on this, but he was probably able to outsmart a lot of the goblins in order to move up in the ranks so quickly. And when he became the leader of this goblin tribe, he had already been working up the plans for a goblin fortress named Karkolohk, which actually means home in Gnomish. Of course, the goblins didn't really catch that because none of them probably speak Gnome. And just as the goblins are starting to finish up Karkolohk and this goblin fortress, the everlasting winter hits Icewind Dale, which caused caravans to go through the mountain pass much less frequently, meaning that the goblins had to actually go out and scavenge for food rather than just raid caravans. So things started to get desperate in the goblin fortress of Karkolohk. It's at this point that Spellix is starting to develop a bit of paranoia, and he's ready to get out of here and away from these goblins. His suit is beginning to fall apart, and he can't maintain the illusion. Also, the goblins are beginning to get suspicious, and they're already starving and struggling, so the first person they're going to look at is their leadership. So Spellix is ready to get out of here. Now, chances are your party's going to hear about this location when a goblin messenger arrives at Bryn Shander, requesting that the speakers send delegates in order to negotiate a peace treaty between Bryn Shander and 10 Towns and the Karkolohk goblins. Sheriff Markham of Bryn Shander isn't buying it. He's going to offer the party 300 gold pieces in order to go to the Goblin Fortress of Karkolohk and bring him the head of their leader. It's up to you as the DM to determine whether or not Spellix is actually interested in a treaty negotiation between the goblins and 10 Towns, or if this is just a clever trick in order to have the party show up and rescue him by escorting him out of this place. When the party arrives at the Goblin Fortress, they are treated as diplomats, and they are allowed to approach and even enter the fortress, and they are then escorted to Spellix, where they will have a feast in order to discuss whichever path you decide to choose. Area 1 is the Watchtowers. There are 2 watchtowers on the path leading to the gate, and there is a 3rd watchtower off to the west overlooking the cliff. Each tower is 20 feet tall and has a rickety wooden ladder leading to the top. Each tower has 4 goblins at the top of it, one of which is carrying a horn that it can use to alert all of the other goblins in the fortress. The goblins at the top of these watchtowers are supposed to be looking out for danger, but they are all cold and bored, so they decide to huddle around the brazier for warmth. Area 2 is the main gate. At the top of this gate are several goblins overlooking anyone who approaches. This gate is locked, and a character with Thieves' Tools can pick it with a DC 20. Also, small characters can squeeze under the gate or between the wooden bars with a DC 20 acrobatics. Area 3 is the Courtyard. Here, a goblin by the name of Snubsuck rides a warg and carries the keys needed to unlock the main gate. Snubsuck will most likely be the goblin that escorts them to Spellix's dining hall. Area 4 is the Archer platforms. At the top of these platforms are several goblins and wolves. If an alarm is sounded, these goblins will grab their short bows and start looking for targets to shoot on the ground floor. If they can't find any, they will mount their wolves and move on to the other Archer platforms until they can find their targets. Area 5 is the main battle platform. This watchtower is 30 feet tall, and beneath it is a shield guardian being hung like a marionette from ropes underneath. Oh boy, a shield guardian. Every wizard's dream is to have one of these bad boys. This thing is just too cool and too powerful. So as a DM, make sure you keep that in mind. Read up on this thing's stat block. Your party is going to want to activate it, and you should give it to them. Read up on it, understand it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to give this thing to your party. It's cool to have. Just tailor the combats a bit. If the party's running around with their shield guardian, and the shield guardian is actually there participating in combat, don't be afraid to just add a couple more monsters. You're going to need to bump up the combat for sure. This thing is very strong, but don't be afraid to give it to them. For the parties that want this shield guardian, you're going to need to send them to the Lost Spire of Netheril, which is where the shield guardian's amulet is. And anybody who holds this amulet will gain control of the shield guardian. As far as where this shield guardian came from, a 2,000-year-old wizard built this shield guardian back when Netheril was still a thing. So this thing probably has some Netheril aesthetic to it. Now, this wizard has been dead for a long time when the city actually crashed into the earth. More on that in the Lost Spire video. But this shield guardian didn't die in the crash, so it actually carved its way out of the spire, which is noticeable when the party actually goes to the spire. And again, I'll cover that in the Spire video, but this shield guardian escaped that spire and kind of wandered into the spine of the world before it shut down for reasons that are entirely up to you as the DM. And that's when these goblins found this thing. And after some time experimenting with this shield guardian, trying to figure out how to get it working, they gave up and just decided to hang it from underneath the watchtower to just be this scary looking scarecrow. And nobody has yet figured out how to get it working, which is where the party can absolutely come in. If you want to have some fun with it though, you could put some graffiti on the shield guardian that maybe the goblins like kind of drew a mustache on it or kind of carved into it. Just add a little bit of flavor, because it has been here for a while, and long enough for the goblins to have just given up on the thing. Moving on to Area 6 is the healers' huts. Each of these huts is home to a goblin healer and their pet mountain goat. Each of these goblin healers have their own healer's kit. A goblin by the name of Manifect lives here. She tells fortunes by studying patterns of raven's blood spilled on the snow. She is wise enough to have seen through Spellix's disguise and is contemplating whether to blackmail him or expose him. She's leaning more towards blackmail because she's not sure that the goblins will pick her as their new leader. That's all that the book gives you on Manifect, but you can feel free to spice her up a bit. Give her all kinds of spell components like jars with eyes and things like that all around her hut, and just make her overall creepy, like witch-like character. And she does tell fortunes, so maybe she can do the party's fortune. You can bring up some backstory things if you like. Really delve into this goblin. She's too cool to be just a side character. Area 7 is the Walk of Doom. This 20-foot long wooden walkway is decorated with goblin skulls. Whenever Spellix wants to make an example of a goblin, the thing is dragged screaming to this walkway and then hurled off of the edge to its death. The skulls are of the goblins that never even made it to the edge. This walkway wasn't very well constructed, and if there's 200 pounds on the wrong side of it, it will begin to collapse. With a DC 16 Dex save, a creature can jump to the edge and land prone on the other side. If they fail that save though, they're going to plummet 150 feet to the ground and take 15d6 bludgeoning damage. Area 8 is the goblin huts, and this is where the goblins live. Each hut has an adult goblin and a d6 goblin children in it. If the fortress is ever under alert, these huts will pull their ladders up so that they're harder to get to. A character's going to have to actually climb to get to each of these individual huts. Area 9 is the main keep foyer. There are 4 goblin guards here, and if an alarm sounds, they're going to drop a heavy wooden crossbar on the double doors, making nothing short of a siege weapon able to get through them. Area 10 is the guard barracks. This is where the guards rest. Area 11 is the dining room, and this is where the party will be taken to meet with Spellix to have a private banquet. The banquet table is low and there are no chairs, as goblins are expected to sit on the floor when they eat. The table and the floor are strewn with fish bones and bits of rotting meat, as well as refuse left over from previous meals. Now, as I mentioned, you have two choices for Spellix. He is either interested in the peace treaty between the goblins and 10 towns, or he is trying to get out of here. Whichever you choose is going to be the conversation that they have over this meal. If Spellix is trying to get out of here, he wastes no time. Once that door shuts, the disguise is off and he's pleading with the party to get him out of here as soon as possible. The paranoia and the fear of death have taken over and he's just ready to be gone. And he will say whatever he has to the party in order to get them to escort him out of here. If the party does decide to escort him out of here, the goblins are going to take that as he's being kidnapped and start attacking immediately. And if you decide to have Spellix kind of try to plead with the goblins, like, no, I'm being escorted for a diplomatic whatever, you can just have the goblins shrug it off like, oh, maybe he's just saying that because the party's forcing him to. Maybe he's a hostage and they're making him say that. Or you can have it where the goblins believe him, but they don't care. And they're just taking this opportunity to claim new leadership. They're goblins, so it's entirely up to you. If Spellix is interested in peace negotiations, you can have those negotiations go on as this meal takes place. And Duvessa and the other council speakers by this time have built a great deal of trust for the party in all of their deeds that they've done so far. So it's not too far out there to have the party negotiate on 10 Town's behalf. If the negotiations go well, Spellix will write it all out on a rabbit's hide and send the party back to Bryn Shander with the declaration. Area 12 is the chief's quarters. If the party has fought their way to this point, Spellix will drop his disguise so that he won't be mistaken for an enemy. Inside Spellix's room is a number of tools and trinkets that the party can pick up. There's also an egg-shaped crate that alludes to the crashed ship It Ascendant. If you plan on running that quest, you can have this egg-shaped crate here that the party can kind of tow around and they can bring to the ship with them in order to have it opened up. If it is opened or if a knock spell is cast on it, a gibbering mouther will appear and attack the party. Area 13 is the Treasury, and this place is completely empty. As you can tell, there's a ton of different endings for this particular quest. If you want to have Manifex show up with a posse and out Spellix as an imposter, that will turn this whole place into a combat, and your 4th or 5th level party can fight through this goblin fortress in order to escape with Spellix in tow. It is a lot of goblins, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue, especially if your party has access to 3rd level spells like Fireball. These goblins will be easy pickings for your party, even though they have wolves and the ward and high ground advantage and things like that. And that's it for Karkolohk. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know how YouTube works. Hit those buttons, leave a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite of the Chapter 2 locations is. And if you want to join the D&D community, make sure you join the Discord. Link in the description. Come by, ask questions. Let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you at sundown.